Hey guys, I'm here to get into Martin Scorsese's Casino, which is perhaps the darkest film he ever made. Yeah, this is insanely dark. Perhaps the darkest gangster film I've ever seen. Even darker than like The Godfather and like the darkest ones of all time. I mean, Goodfellas was a breeze next to this, and that's an equally perfect film. And I think that one's having a little more fun. Well, this is just a tragedy the entire way through. And perhaps the most grand epic scale Martin Scorsese captured right along the ranks of the Irishman as far as his outlook on the crime genre. I think Goodfellas is like having a well, equally perfect time, but like this is just a lot more dramatic and serious and intense. Like there's so many layers and details going into all these scenes as it kind of captures like the early '70s into something that's just like a very ambitious kind of epic. I mean, it's just you're kind of getting something that almost feels like it would be like a made for a TV show, but Martin Scorsese spent like a year about passionately going intensely into the making of this film, just really trying to grasp the mechanics of the casino and just kind of the intense downward spirals that were going on in stories, like how all the excess and fame literally got people's heads in crazy ways. Like you see, like one of the biggest betrayals of friendship of all time captured here through Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. You see way more intense than Goodfellas. Like I mean, and Nicky's despicable. There's not. I mean, he's a psychopath in Goodfellas, but here he's beyond a psychopath. I mean, he's literally just the most hateable scumbag, along with Ginger McKenna, who's wow. I mean, Sharon Stone is masterfully portraying perhaps the most despicable female character I've ever seen in a film, which is just intense to say that. I mean, she's really so far into just alcohol and drug abuse, just literally just cheating all all of the money and excess and fame that when she explodes, it's about the most powerful thing of all time. And this increasingly grows to be about, yeah, I recognize this is perhaps one of Martin Scorsese's greatest masterpieces because it's just directed with absolute perfection the entire way through. And it's done in a way that only a guy like Martin Scorsese can do. The cinematography here has just never been more gorgeous, and the style has just never been more strong in a Scorsese film, perhaps. I feel like he really sets an atmosphere at this casino, a very extroverted kind of atmosphere, but it's kind of like capturing a madness in extroversion. That's the anxiety that kicks in, especially with like Robert De Niro's character. And all the layers of details just make this increasingly come back. Like I think the first time I saw this, it was like almost like too overwhelming for me in a way. I loved it, but the older I get, the more I realize I love that unsettling effect. The violence has never been more harsh. I mean, literally, like heads explosions, like face, like body parts blowing off. Like it's intense how harsh the violence feels in this film. It's very haunting and feels nightmarish in a lot of ways. I think that's the thing about Casino. And it kind of invites a lot of like this '90s kind of formula of just like kind of engaging storytelling and rise and fall biopic structures. Like it's a film Boogie Nights is very similar. I feel like this is a very similar something. A little. This is more cold-hearted. Boogie Nights is like a warmer take on this kind of formula. It's a little more about the family here, but there ain't no family's pretty awful towards each other here. I mean, all the cheating goes on and whatnot, but I increasingly realize, yeah, this is one of the best crime films of all time. Because again, it's just the way it makes me feel it. It's like, by contrast, The Godfather seems a lot more cold, and it's equally perfect to me. But I think I love this perhaps the most as far as just right now. It's just like I know Paul. It always ends up coming back to The Godfather for one reason or another. Right now, I really feel like I love the violence portrayed in Casino so much, and the way that all the details. This just really is like a proper rise. And in the first hour, it does feel like it's kind of having a good time until like the last hour happened. It feels like it's like dancing from the dark levels of just tragic. And entertaining. I just like he goes pretty hard a lot. He's never gone harder. It feels like it, thematically speaking. He spent a year like this is a intense passion project, low key for him. In 1994, he was obsessively building this. And I don't know, it's just directed in a way that's just absolutely perfect. It's one of the best screenplays of all time. I mean, like, like one of like Boogie Nights and Magnolia. Like, it's just geniusly written scripts in Red Line, for that matter. And that's the thing. I think when this film came out, it was extremely unfair to view this as like a rehash of Goodfellas, as a lot of people are seeing. Like, this is just a little like, because I think it's just a lot more of it's told from the tragic lens, while Goodfellas is kind of more told from the dark comedic lens. But Casino is just everything coming together. Like actors, like some of the best directing, and it's one of the few films that gets away well smoothly with like the narration. I mean, Clockwork Orange also has perfect use of this, and so is Goodfellas. Casino is another one. I don't know. I love the way the gangsters are portrayed here, but yeah, I don't know. Casino is just really about a paradise that's lost, and feeling very lonely in this depth of chaos within a desire to build your own empire, but feeling very lonely in a lot of ways. Of course, Las Vegas is like, and it feels like a modern kind of Western in a strange kind of way. Like, kind of like a rise and fall odyssey of just like building something like almost in the McCabe and Mrs. Miller sense, Robert Altman kind of Western, you could say, anti-Western. It's just everything's just going crazy. But in the modern sense, it's more of a gangster territory. I think that's the thing. A lot of gangsters are in the modern Western. And I mean, it's just so much going on here as far as just like the mechanics of what it is to overlook a casino, just how overwhelmingly anxious the process would ultimately be. I mean, Robert De Niro really plays that to perfection in so many different ways. And that's the thing. Robert De Niro, like his character Ace, is really running something tight here. I mean, he's always making sure all the casino earners always walk away with something special. And I don't know, everyone's just really got an intense eye on each other. So there's always a fear of violence happening in the moment with all the characters. There's just no peace whatsoever in this madness this builds here. As far as this formula, this is my favorite of this. Like Goodfellas and Wolf of Wall Street kind of have this loose trilogy, but I really prefer this film most of all because Wolf of Wall Street, that's great for that's wearing off me over time. Honestly, that's just way too far into the celebration of excess. While this is actually the horror film about it, perhaps. Goodfellas is not a horror film whatsoever about it. The tragedy there, it's just kind of mocking it. But this is like actually like was it satirizing it? You could say. But this is more like this isn't the satirical. Like it still has this dark comedy. Don't get me wrong. Like it feels like an evolution of like Raging Bull in a lot of ways. Like an epic, even more epic take on the Raging Bull film. Which is, to me, I think I love this slightly better because it's just even more of an epic and the exact same sort of impact, even harder, I'd say, than Raging Bull in a sense. Robert De Niro's just. Again, maybe one of the most sympathetic like characters in a really sad situation. You could say you really feel sorry for him. Ultimate melancholic, faded dreamer as always. And he's in this spiritual loneliness, kind of more how Martin Scorsese portrays the loneliness and silence rather than Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver was more of like a little bit more of a youthful kind of angst, you could say. This is a little bit more of like a 30s, 40s sort of angst, which is more just disappointment and sort of, just basing on all the punches that it comes, but just keep moving kind of thing. Cinematography here is just genius, and I loved all the visuals here so much. And it's just always so engaging the entire way through. I mean, it really feels like the 3 hours just feel like 2 hours, much like the film Magnolia. It's just always it flies right by. One of the best films to come out of the 90s, honestly. Yeah, it really is up there. It's like one of Martin Scorsese's number one greatest experiences. I don't know. It's just so ambitious in a way that it actually adds up to being completely entertaining the entire way through. It's completely fascinating. The extent of detail that goes into it. So when the tragedy hits, just all these scenes just feel like horrifying, like awful. And it just really captures what this was like, again, set in the 70s. That's another thing. Again, I think that's why I keep comparing a lot of Boogie Nights in spirit. Both portrayals of just a lot of this, what was going on in the 70s. And you have the sleazy end and just kind of the downfall, but an epic, grand epic, best grand epic way of telling it kind of thing. That's like a 90s thing. Telling the 70s in a beautiful, modest, grand epic sort of sense. You guys get used to that category too. But, oh, man. I love the soundtrack here. Martin Scorsese really has a perfect ear for music. And here he really does something that just really does dive into some like how, literally in the purest sense, just how just all these little things just corrupt all these characters into this massive mess, basically. And just watching this massive mess unfold in the most entertaining way possible. And yeah, it's one of Martin Scorsese's greatest masterpieces. I could rewatch this film eternally and feel the impact. I really couldn't watch it. No, I take that back. It's almost so. I think I would say that more now. I'm really excited to rewatch this soon. But I think the thing about Casino is its impact is so heavy that it intimidates me to rewatch it all the time. Because this is literally a very maximalist film. This is almost so maximalist that I think it should scare me. Because this is like, wow, this is a horror haunting tale of whatever you feel like you're running a sort of ambition that you feel like you're getting nothing from it. It's just like, wow, like don't let that kind of madness into your head, in your heart. Because that's the thing. Like some naivete is what can do it. Like naivete, thinking too much of other people can drag you down to a very low pedestal here. So I think Casino's a really dark tale, and ultimately how all that violence just leads to something horrific in the end, which is just devastating. I mean, beyond words, really. The way the whole film plays out. It's a perfect downfall experience. It really is. It's extremely entertaining. I would say if you're up for an extremely violent sort of tale, this is perfect because that's the thing. Otherwise, I don't recommend it. It is very harsh. It is very extreme what this film lays out. It's extreme as some of the most extreme instructors of like Lars von Trier. It's like, man, it's a lot. I recommend Casino to anybody who's interested in that kind of thing, the crime stuff.